Hey guys, Barrett here with Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking about the absolutely beautiful Italian-made Sonetto VIII tower speakers by Sonus Faber. The Italians are well known for talking with their hands, as well as their delicious and widely adored foods like pizza and spaghetti. These are some of the most enjoyed comfort foods in North America. But when it comes to hi-fi, I doubt Italian-made speakers are the first to come to your mind. But maybe they should be. Today we are going to talk about whether these beautiful Italian speakers are as pleasing to our ears as pizza and spaghetti are to our palates. We're going to talk about the price, the build quality and aesthetics, and of course sound quality, and there will be some demos recorded with a binaural microphone that should give you a taste of how they sound in my room with spatial sounds. So make sure that you do stick around for that. Let's get some of the less exciting things out of the way before we move on to their sound quality. In my first impressions video, I brought up the fact that the size of their drivers was a little bit questionable, and I still believe that, but I want to clarify something. I understand that driver sizes are listed based on the measurement of the basket around the driver. I don't want to give the impression that a 7-inch driver should be measured by the edge of the surround to the edge of the surround to get 7 inches. The reason I measured it this way in the first impression video is to show how far off this 7-inch driver was from its actual 7-inch rating. For example, I have the SVS Ultra bookshelf speakers where the woofer is listed at 6.5 inches, and when measured by their surrounds, they measure almost 5.75 inches, which is larger than the Sonetto 7-inch driver that measures 5.5 inches when measured the same way. So to make a long story short, the Sonetto driver should technically be about half an inch larger than the 6.5-inch driver when measured from the edge of the surround to the edge of surround, but instead it is actually a little bit smaller than the SVS Ultra bookshelf woofer, which is supposed to be 6.5 inches. So that's what I was trying to portray in the first impressions video. Ultimately, I just wanted to make prospective buyers aware of this since it is a little bit misleading, but it's not really a fault to the speaker. Every speaker company does this. It's just Sonus Faber did it a little bit more than I was expecting. All right, so now that we have the so-called bad out of the way, let's move on to the good because there is a lot of good here. Starting with the build quality and aesthetics, for a speaker priced at $6,999 US or about 9,400 Canadian per pair, they actually offer you a lot of value in the looks department. A lot of speakers in that price range offer a standard rectangular box without adding anything particularly unique, but the Sonetto VIIIs offer plenty of beauty and uniqueness, starting with their LUTE-shaped cabinet. This offers something with a bit of an Italian flair to it with the rounded curves. Although it does look beautiful, it isn't just a pretty face, it also serves an acoustical purpose to help reduce internal resonances due to the shape not having any parallel surfaces. Another acoustical benefit to this cabinet is the downward firing port. This helps with placement for those that need to put them a little bit closer to the wall. Surrounding that port is a substantial metal base that also houses the outrigger feet, but it is a nice touch of modern aesthetic that also is an incredibly stable base for these speakers to rest on. Then there are the silver machined accents around each driver, which add a modern touch to a classic wood veneer, like the Wenge veneer that we see here. And then to top it all off, they use some genuine Italian leather on the top of the speaker, which adds a beautiful and traditional Italian touch of luxury. Altogether, this is one beautifully designed and absolutely beautiful looking speaker that offers much more than some other speakers in this price range in the looks department. And if you aren't crazy about the Wenge veneer that we have here, Sonus Faber does offer 3 other finishes that are equally beautiful, like black, white, and walnut. Now that we know it looks beautiful, let's talk about the build quality before moving on to the sound demos and sound quality. Although I've not dismantled the speaker, it does appear and feel very well built. There are no loose parts, everything is buttoned up very nicely. There are no blemishes or poor workmanship to be seen. Everything from the 5-way biampable binding post to the leather at the top seems to fit very well with no gaps or lack of attention to detail. But speaking of attention to detail, I do like the little placard on the back of each speaker with a matching serial number. They also make sure to let you know that it is made in Italy. It isn't anything exceptional, but it is a very nice touch. To put it very simply, so far I have no complaints regarding the build quality over the last few months that I've spent with these speakers. All right, let's move on to some sound demos before I discuss what I hear when I listen to the Sonetto VIIIs in my room. For these demos, my room correction was disabled. My 3 JTR Cap 2400 subwoofers were also disabled. I was powering the Sonetto VIIIs with the beautiful and beastly ToneWinner 81PA 2-channel amplifier. The first 2 songs are streamed through my new Prime Stream 9 streamer, connected to my Anthem AVM90, and the other songs are streamed wirelessly through my AVM90. I am using a very cool Zoom H3 VR binaural microphone for a unique spatial 2-channel experience. You should be able to hear some of the soundstage if you use a good pair of headphones. Keep in mind that these songs are copyright free. I do have to avoid using copywritten music, so the songs that I choose, you guys may question why I choose them. It's simply because they're copyright free. And always remember that my recording equipment, my room, the device that you're listening on, and the fact that YouTube condenses the audio will affect the sound. So don't take this as an accurate depiction of what I'm hearing in my room. Okay, here's the first demo called Gentleman by J2X and Lou.
Drinking that, come on and love. Can manage to say no. I can stand to be alone. Lets me
That's it for the demos. Let me know what you guys thought of the sound. Also, let me know if you enjoyed the binaural audio and if you could hear some of the soundstage. All right, so let's get into the sound quality, their imaging, and their soundstage. So starting from the top end, we'll work our way down. The treble of the Sonetto VIIIs is a little emphasized, not a lot, but enough to add a little bit of sparkle and perceived clarity at the top. It provides some nice airiness and detail retrieval, but on the flip side, it is a little bit more forward than you would be used to with a flat speaker. It's not so much that you will find them fatiguing easily, but for those that are sensitive to high frequencies, you may want to tame them down just a little bit in EQ. But with that said, these damped soft dome tweeters do provide some pretty sweet and appealing highs. It has a nice sizzle at the top for things like hi-hats and cymbals, and they aren't overly sensitive to sibilants, even though they do have that high-end sparkle. Overall, the highs are quite smooth, attractive, and very well done. Moving on to the mid-range, which I feel is one of the strong suits of this speaker. It is a little on the cooler side of neutral, in my opinion, but not overly so. What I can say absolutely is that this is nicely detailed, clear, and crisp. They have one of the cleaner and clearest mid-ranges from the speakers that I've heard in my room, which of course works very well for male and female vocals alike. And this is not only pleasing for music, but also works very well for home theater because dialogue is clearer and more intelligible than a lot of other speakers that I've heard in my room. I know that I said it is a little on the cooler side, but I don't find it unnatural or distracting. I think Sonus Faber balanced it quite well and didn't go overboard with the cool mid-range. The mid-range is something that just stands out, but in a good way with the speaker. I must commend them for the excellent work. And that brings us to the bass. In my first impressions, I stated that this bass is a little on the lean side, and I still stand by that statement even after spending some more time with it, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing either. The three low-end woofers can provide some low-end rumble when it is called for, and can give you a nice kick that can even be felt in your couch. It's also quite nuanced and clean. I would classify the bass as musical. In my opinion, this is not a speaker that you should choose if you prefer music with heavy bass like hip-hop or electronic music, unless you plan on pairing them with a subwoofer, which I would recommend. For medium to large rooms, you could get away without a subwoofer, especially if it's a sealed dedicated room, but that is assuming that you prefer a clean, tight bass that is a little on the lean side. If you are expecting some room-shaking bass, this probably isn't the speaker for you, again, unless you pair it with a subwoofer. Which leads me to believe two things. First, that these speakers are geared a little bit more towards music listeners that love finesse, a strong mid-range and a sparkly top end, but accurate, tight bass on the lean side. And the second thing that it leads me to believe is that for anyone else who likes their music loud and bassy, pricey, you should buy these speakers with the intention of supplementing them with a low-end subwoofer. But that also makes them somewhat of a good fit for home theater as well. For those looking for a tower speaker with clean mids and sparkly highs for your home theater, you will most likely be crossing them over at 80 Hz anyway and adding a subwoofer or two for the low end, so these can work very well in that application. Alright, so let's move on to Soundstage and Imaging. The Sonetto VIIIs are one of the better speakers that I've heard in my room for both soundstage and imaging. They provide a nice wide soundstage that expands past the side of the speakers and reaches your sidewalls. I listened to Madonna's Vogue, which is always a good one to test out soundstage, and the Sonettos didn't miss a beat. The sounds were coming from above the speakers, from my sidewalls, and kind of all around the front of the room. The soundstage is quite deep as well, but not the deepest that I've heard in my room, although that is being a little bit nitpicky because their depth is nothing to be ashamed of. Besides the soundstage being one of the better that I've heard in my room, they also image like champions. When I listened to The Man Who Sold the World by Nirvana Unplugged, you could clearly hear where each piece of the drum set was. Kurt Cobain was nice front and center, and the guitar strums and pick strikes could be heard from the left and the right side. Another fantastic song for imaging is Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool. The drumming that starts at around 2 minutes and 10 seconds moves around the front stage just as it should. The panning sound effect that is in that song is also perfectly represented by these speakers. I can't fault the soundstage or imaging. They did an excellent job with both, and I think the word excellent is just a great way to sum up the sound of these speakers. No, of course they're not perfect, but nothing on this world is. Anyone searching for a beautiful looking and beautiful sounding speaker that excels at being musical, light on its feet, and detailed should definitely give the Sonetto VIIIs a good hard look. You would be hard pressed to find a speaker with more class and visual refinement than these speakers that are just dripping with Italian design flair. If you guys enjoyed my review of the Sonetto VIIIs, consider subscribing, tick the bell icon if you do, and please take just one short second to hit that like button. I always do appreciate it, guys. Drop your comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts on these beautiful speakers. Also, please consider supporting the channel by joining the Patreon through the link down in the description below, or by clicking the join button or the thanks button that is right below this video. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.